I'm actually a native Texan, which
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
very few of us around.
I'm one. I'm
Are
one.
you? All
Yeah.
right. All
Born and
right.
raised in Plano. So
Oh,
yeah.
I was born and raised in San Antonio.
Okay.
Um, but then in 19, oh Lord, I'm going to really date myself now. 78,
Okay.
I got hired by Braniff Airlines. If you remember Braniff
Yes.
back in the day. So anyway, I was based in Dallas, Fort Worth. So my husband and I moved to Dallas, Fort Worth from San Antonio, and I've been here ever since. So
Now, do you make home out in the Southlake area or you just
yes,
that's
I'm in Southlake.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Fantastic. And I like we mentioned yesterday, the I think the rivalry between our two offices is crazy. I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy
It
because
is.
I mean, we look at what you guys are doing and you're so inspiring and we want to keep up. And every now and then we beat you in a couple of metrics, but I think it's very healthy. And as my dear friend Monique jumps on, she's down at Heritage in San Antonio. Okay,
Oh,
San Antonio
great.
connection, right? And what's crazy is we think we have large offices here, right? I think Dallas Preston Road, we've got like 600. You guys have a large number. Heritage, I think they've got like 12 or 1300 in one
Wow.
office, right? So they're the big bad behemoth in our area and industry. But again, we're all family here. You'll find that half the people typically who join in, they're here from the Dallas area, and then the other half they're just from all over the country. So without further ado, I appreciate you. Um, like I told you before, I see you as the epitome of a luxury agent, right? Style and grace in everything you do. Barb, how did that happen? Was it intentional on your part, or did you grow into that space? How did this happen?
Well, actually, I guess it was more organic. So I used to work for a large other brand real estate firm.
And it's okay to mention them.
Well, and and I'm going to date myself in this whole thing. So I've been selling now for 41 years, so a
Okay.
long, long time. So when I go back, I'm going way back. And that's back in the day when we had the MLS books, we didn't have anyway. So we also set phone duty. So we would have phone duty. We didn't have a receptionist at the office,
Yep.
and we would have to sit 3-hour shifts. And I got my first call for a luxury listing back then. The seller was actually a Channel 4 newscaster by the name of Ted Dawson.
I remember Ted.
We are old enough to know who he was.
Yep.
He had a beautiful home in Southlake. So I went out on the listing appointment and I ended up getting it. He was interviewing a couple of other agents. And then I don't know, that just sort of, I think when I first worked my first high-end property and I got paid on it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. The checks are much bigger and but it is a lot of work. So I'm gonna have to preface, and I know most of y'all probably still have all worked luxury at some point or another, but you work twice as hard really because those clients they're just demanding, very demanding. So, but then my little wheels started turning in my head, going, this is what I want to do. I want to work luxury. So I thought, okay, this is my first luxury deal. How can I get the word out? And so back then we didn't have social media, none of that was popular. So I actually just did a flyer up on the sale of that home. And I went and put it in every agent's mailboxes. I went from office to office to office, just trying to let other agents know that I worked luxury because, a lot of people, they like to, if they work luxury, you're going to kind of start networking with them and they're going to see you as a luxury agent. And then I actually ran a newspaper article. I called the local newspaper and I had asked my client, do you mind if I advertise? Because you're known in the Dallas Fort Worth area as the Channel 4 sportscaster. And he said, oh, no problem. And so I was able to run an article in the newspaper, because I wanted the word to get out to the masses, to the public. So I think that is really key. Um, once you start having some successes, and now that was just one deal, and then it took forever to get more listings. So it came actually many years later. I actually sold a COO, I believe he was, for the Floor Corporation, and they were moving their whole headquarters here from California. So they've referred me all of the other top executives within that company. And at the time, I literally did have a maybe two or three other luxury listings at that time. So those listings all went under contract. And then I sold these 5 buyers that were all luxury. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get the word out, And so whenever you see that you're having success, you need to blast it out there. So, and I mean, you've got to send it on, you've got to do it everywhere. So, I do it on social media now, or back then, social media was around, of course, because this wasn't that many years ago. I also did a huge postcard campaign. So on every one of those listings, I did a just listed, just sold, or I did a just sold. I participated in the sale, even though it wasn't my listing. I wanted the public to know. And then I sent it to every household in the Dallas-Fort Worth, well, not Dallas-Fort Worth, but the cities that I work, Southlake, Westlake, Colleyville, Keller. So I sent it, and it cost me a lot of money. It took probably one of those whole paychecks to pay for this marketing campaign, and it took a whole year. So like I would send one out one week, 2 weeks later, I would send out another one, even though they had maybe happened a couple of months before. People don't know that. So you send that out, and then it really started taking off the next year, to be honest. It took a whole year of sending postcards, and I didn't let up. Like, if I didn't have a house to advertise as a just listed or a just sold, then I sent something maybe about the timing of the market. It's time to sell. And so actually, the following year, I calculated, and back then I never kept really a spreadsheet. I just did it all by hand. But I counted the number of transactions that I had that year, and it was 37 came from my postcard mailings.
Wow.
So, I mean, and that was, a good probably 65% of my business that year. So it does pay off to advertise your successes.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I hear that, and because so you've even got me by about 5 years in the business. And I don't know if you remember Walter Sanford, but Walter, I think Walter was the first agent, I think, in America he basically had a small team, but he was the first to do over 100 transactions. And one thing that resonated with me, now this was about 35 years ago, he said that you need to become a local celebrity in your community. I think that's exactly what you've done. You parlayed your success with a local celebrity like Ted Dawson, right? And then you parlayed that into more and more. And again, I think we all heard consistency.
right,
There's the key. You have to be consistent, regardless of, what price point you want to work in. And you and I both know that you delivering the luxury experience, it's irrespective of the price point. Wouldn't you agree?
right.
I'm sure you have clients that are well under $1 million that
Oh,
still
they are. And I give them the same service now, pretty much, well, you just do, because it just becomes part of your nature. But
absolutely.
I think working the luxury market then organically starts to grow.
Yeah.
So I always do agent to meets at my listings. And so one opportunity that I had, and I don't ever try to take over the buyer. I mean, I'm very professional. I feel I'll tell them a little bit when they first walk in the house, the other agent, but it's nice for the other agent because you've got all the lights on, you've got the house unlocked. And then you go back after, I mean, or after the showing, then you lock everything up and turn off the lights. The agent representing the buyer doesn't have to do all of that. So you're taking away a part of their responsibility, and making it easy for them. But I really just explain a little bit about the house, and then I stand back and let them show the property. If they walk into a room where maybe there's something specialized, I might kind of pop my head in then to make sure I point it out. But the way I received then another high-end profile client, he's actually a professional basketball player. And I can't remember, was it Renee that's from San Antonio? Was that her name?
Monique. Monique. Mhm.
Monique, sorry, Monique. Anyway, he played for the San Antonio Spurs, but not at that time. He played for another team at the time. But his agent brought him over to Southlake from Midlothian, I believe, or somewhere where he kind of connected with them. But the poor guy, I mean, we would go from house to house because I happened to have at that time maybe 4 or 5 showing listings that he was looking at. And so we kind of did them all in a row so it would be easier on me, going from house to house too. And his agent would always follow him, follow. And I don't know if he didn't have a GPS, but he showed up late to every house. Then it was like, so I would kind of start showing his client through. Well, anyway, he called me then like a month later and just said, "Hey, Barbara, this is, and he introduced himself. He goes, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're like 7 feet. Of course I'm going to remember you." Well, anyway, he said, "I fired my agent." He goes, "Would you mind being my agent to represent me?" He goes, "I really want to focus on the Southlake area to buy a home." And I said, "Well, of course I will." So anyway, he has been he's become a really good friend now. But I added up the other day because I was speaking somewhere else and they wanted to know, who was did I have any buyers like that constantly kept coming back, And anyway, I counted, I have 18 sales with him. Now they're not all with him personally. He bought his mom a house and then we sold that one and then he bought her another one and then he bought his 2 cousins a house. So, I mean, but organically, I guess that's where I'm saying it just has organically grown, which has helped. And then I have another client that I think I've got 8 sales with her now. She moves like every 2 years. She just gets bored. And, these are all in the $4 or $5 million price point. So once you kind of get into that arena and you build trust with them, that's where it just starts organically growing. So, and like the basketball player, I remember on one transaction, he was actually losing money on the sale of this property. And so I stepped in and I said, "Look," I said, "to make this deal work, I'll reduce my commission, with you." And believe it or not, so I offered it. He didn't ask me, but his financial uh, guy that he always does, he takes every transaction past his financial person. He called me one day and he said, "Barbara," he goes, "he'll be your client for life because he said he called me and was like shocked that you offered that to him, that no one has ever offered him anything because they all think he has all this money."
Right.
But I felt for him. I felt bad that we were losing money on this transaction, but it was like in 08 and 09 when the market
Oh my
tanked.
goodness, right. Oh,
it wasn't my fault. It wasn't his fault. It was just the market, but I still felt for him. So I think it's just showing empathy towards the
One,
buyer. And then,
100%, 100. And I think it's interesting. My best client contacted me 2 weeks ago, and so we're looking at targeting to put his home on the market in January, February, and we have done 18 deals together. And he's not really an investor, but it is what it is. And I think uh, most people, as I see here on the screen, have worked in the luxury market. And I'll tell you, here's what Ben Baker learned after forever in this industry. When I finally crossed my very first $1 million home, and that year I sold 6 or 7 in that year, having never done it before. And I felt like as soon as I did it, somebody, I guess the ceiling was broken, I guess. Is the only thing I could equate. But I'm like, my consistency then led to in the following year, I did another 4 or 5. And so this year I haven't done one. So I need to be rubbing on you, Barbara. I need some of that energy. So, so we appreciate you. Um, Now we talk about the market. Um, right now, what are you seeing? Right? Are you seeing things a little ahead of pace, a little slow? Do you think we're seeing and feeling something from politics and the election? What are you seeing right now?
yes, I mean, in our area, it's definitely slowed down. I don't have anywhere near as many listings as I did. The listings have just dried up. Buyers are still out there, but um, the listings definitely have slowed up. So it's even hard to find your buyer a house right now. So I
Mhm.
belong to a couple of networking groups. So if you don't belong to one, maybe start one in your area. But these are agents with other firms as well as Keller Williams. So um, we have, I'm Ally Beth Almond, Sotheby's, so there's a group of us. There's like 10 or 15 of us, and we all trust each other. We've all been in the business for a while, but we all do share our upcoming new listings, our pocket listings, and that has helped tremendously. We've been able to, do a lot of transactions together. So you just have to kind of work with what you can in this kind of market environment. But I do think it's all politics personally. I think once after the election is over, it doesn't matter who wins. It's market always goes back to normal afterwards, but everybody gets this little fear inside of them. And we're so polarized right now anyway in our political scene, but it's still, I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot no matter who gets in. Things
Yeah.
will then, everybody will kind of get back to their routines and people will feel comfortable about going out and buying and selling again. So,
I hope you're right. I feel the same way. And I'm anxious for us to get back to just being decent and respectful. That's my political comment. Enough of that. But I do like your suggestion because I see a couple of my friends here. Betty Washington's one. Betty's more on the other end of town, and she might already be involved with a group. I'm part of the Elite 20 here also. And like you said, we've got Independence, we've got EXP and Compass and Remax. We've got all those, and they're trusted professionals. There's nothing, we're not trying to recruit them. We're all working together. And again, I think the spirit is all about collaboration, and that's why I love about this group here. I see so many of my friends that are consistent each and every week, and regardless of whether there's 15 or 50 of us on it, right? We it's consistency, and we love the collaboration. So keep doing it at a high level. Now, do you hold a position in our luxury division currently, or
yes,
um,
I'm actually the new luxury ambassador for North Texas, New Mexico.
okay, I see. I thought I heard something, so I was like, I need to ask her because I'm not
Yeah.
sure. So,
So
okay,
right after the luxury symposium, which is just in 2 more weeks, when I get back, we're going to start having now more luxury events. in our area, and I'd love to hear from all of y'all if you don't mind. Y'all can send me a quick email of some topics that you would be interested in. What I always thought is, I mean, because there's so many people in luxury that are kind of new to luxury. I always wish somebody, would have shown me about making a listing presentation. Both, I have one both online that I do, and then I have, a book. But it's like, what do you put in there? Right now, with trying to show our value because of the new rules in real estate, I think it would be real helpful for us to all collaborate and have like a workshop and, just maybe all talk about, okay, what are things that we can put in our listing presentation, luxury, towards the luxury market that is going to resonate with those sellers. Another thing that no one ever handed me or told me about was non-disclosures, NDAs. So a lot of these high profile people that you work sometimes or have the opportunity to work, you want to make sure that you give the other agent a non-disclosure that they can't say who is looking at their listing. But it's, who is, and I was like, oh, I don't, and so I finally went to an attorney and had one drawn up. But, I really didn't even know about them. I mean, it's like those are little things that I think are helpful that when you join the luxury division, these are things that are just at your fingertips. We have so many tools through the luxury division, both from a marketing standpoint, but I think too, just collaborating together would be really good too, to try to, you know, put ourselves up there.
Absolutely. Well, and what's interesting is I think you and I both know that we've got a couple of companies locally that promote that they're like the industry leader. But the facts are no one in the US sells more luxury properties than our brand. And I feel like who really cares? Who really cares? I think it's all marketing, but we have to toot our own horn at times, and it is what it is. I appreciate your leadership. If you will, recite to everybody what your email address is.
Oh,
'Cause, yeah, if you're interested, email her directly, right? And Barbara, I'd love for you then to, if you get something, then we can clearly share it out. But I think that's great intel for you, and then for you to share it back to us. So what's that email address?
it's Barbara, Barbara, at my last name, Pantuso, Pantuso properties.com. Kind of long.
That's all right.
Barbara at pantusoproperties.com. Yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, you know what? We've got a few minutes. Does anybody have a direct question? To either raise your hand and take yourself off mute or put it through the chat, and then Christina can recite it. While we've got the model and the epitome of luxury here, not just in North Texas, but I think nationally. And again, thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time today, Barbara. Anybody? And if not, that's cool too. As I'm looking, Barb, is there something that you would love to share with us, professionally, personally, maybe what you see? I don't even know where to take this, but since we've got a few minutes, and I don't want to let you go, but I do know you've got another appointment. So, is there anything else that you'd like to, maybe a final point that you want to hit us?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a quote that I had heard once. I can't even remember what webinar I was on or whatever, but it said everything that you do is an audition of what you are becoming. And that just resonated with me. And I think when so many agents even today are kind of like mean to I don't know what it is, but
Yes.
I just think we need to be more really excited for other people when they get a listing that we don't get. I think that we need to be more just friendly to each other with even other offices, other firms. I think that really will always come back and help you in the end.
Amen.
Uh, Another thing real fast is just learning from your mistakes. So anytime I don't get a listing, I immediately text the seller and say, well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, but would you really mind telling me, would you mind telling me why I didn't get the business?
Mhm.
Um, because it really helps you. And I always put in there because I'm always trying to improve my business. And most businessmen or even women, I mean, they love that you are asking that question. And so many of them, I mean, they've all been very honest with me, of why I didn't get the listing. One was a just real fast, and then I know we need to get off. But I went on a listing appointment where I took one of my team members, and she said, Barbara, would you mind taking me on a luxury listing appointment with you? So I did, but I was kind of nervous, like having her shadow me. So I said, well, just kind of, watch and observe, but, maybe just, I wanted her more just to be an observer, which was so totally wrong because I didn't know I was going up against a powerhouse team, two female agents that are both very strong in their field. One really more represented the buyers, which my buyer's agent does, and she's really good with buyers. But so anyway, when I lost the listing, the seller said, well, the other team just really complemented each other and were both very strong. So then I realized, oh gosh,
Mhm.
I must have looked like, like I was the leader, but my team member was not. And
Yes.
that wasn't a good way to highlight my team member either. Like, so it's weird how you can it's just learning. It's just learning your mistakes. So even today,
Right.
we all make mistakes. And I think learning
Al-
from them is
and
key.
always be learning based, I think also is the key that you're highlighting here. Richie asked, how large is your team?
There's five of us.
Okay. Okay.
So,
And Crystal might have asked, when things are a little slow right now, what are you focusing working on?
well, I'm going back to the basics. So my team and we're getting together and we're making our calls to our past clients. And we do that one day. It's only one day a week, which isn't that much, but we do it for a 2 hour time period. But then I told them, now you need to be doing this every day,
Mhm.
When you drive by a house that you sold, you just pick up the phone right then and call them or text them. Hey, I just went by your house. It's looking amazing. How are you? Made me think of you. How are you doing?
Right.
So it's just constantly, I'm getting back to my postcard campaign. Um, because back when I did it before, that was in '08 and '09. And when people get these postcards, just listed, just sold, just listed, just sold, that's why I was receiving the phone calls. They would go, it looks like you're the only one out there selling properties.
Mhm.
So now is the time when the market is slow. And these are houses I've sold from January 1 of this year to now.
Yes.
So it's not like I just sold it yesterday. So even though it's a just sold, I don't have anything else to send other than
You're staying
so yeah.
consistent. You're staying consistent. So